Hi everyone, my name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And today we have a list for you. It's been a while since we've made a list of board games.
A while, yep.
And so today we're going to be talking about 20 board games that are available now, no crowdfunding needed.
Yes, we're actually fibbed a little bit. It's more than 20.
Yes,
it's going to be
most
quite a few,
likely.
but we are going to kind of rapid just go over some of these games. These are games that, like Monique said, are not currently crowdfunded. They are games that are actually out in retail that are in stock.
Yes, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And these are also games that we have played and can recommend. Now, we made this list in light of the recent tariff situation that is happening in the US, which is actually affecting people worldwide. And so, like Naveen was mentioning, these are going to be board games that we have played and can recommend. And instead of it being a board gaming sort of focused list, we're doing it as a publisher focused list where we're going to be naming games from specific publishers. And this is in efforts to help both publishers as well as local gaming stores because they are being very deeply affected right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, obviously, in the market. And so these are games that are actually on shelves right now.
Hopefully.
And then nonetheless, there is just a list of games that if you wanted to learn a little bit more, because we're not going to go into too much detail about them, you can kind of springboard from there and do further research.
Right. At the bare minimum, it's a list of board games. Now, this is not a sponsored video, but we do want to take a second to speak a little bit more on the situation. So we hope that you'll stay for this part. And so, a lot of people are probably fully aware of what is happening in terms of the tariffs that have risen overnight in the US that are specifically on imports, more notably from China. But if you are an international viewer and maybe you're not constantly online, then you might not know about it.
Yeah, recently tariffs kind of sprung up overnight very, very rapidly. And so these are primarily on imports from abroad coming into the US. Now, most board games, as you all may know, is manufactured and shipped from China. We do not have the industry here in the United States to be able to manufacture games at a pace or at a rate that spurred that industry here. So these tariffs are basically very, very problematic for a lot of the importing companies, these publishers that we're going to be talking about.
And a tariff is a tax that the people who are importing have to pay.
Yes, so in order for a company to receive their goods that come in, they have to pay this tariff or this duty at the time of collecting their imports from customs and borders.
Right, and there are three main problems, I think, that are that people are facing right now. The first thing was how sudden they were. The second thing is how high they are. And the third thing is how uncertain they are. So this is a problem that can go away tomorrow, or maybe it'll go away in a few years, but nobody can predict that. And even if you're the smartest business person in the world, that's a very, very difficult challenge that people are facing.
Yeah, if you've priced something, a goods landed in the US at a certain rate, and then all of a sudden you are hit with a large tariff, you have to have the capital on hand, capital meaning the money on hand, to be able to actually collect your goods from the port. And that becomes a big challenge because there could be a liquidity issue in terms of credit as well as in terms of cash flow.
Right. Now, neither of us are experts on the situation or any of the topics that this has to do with, but we do have a few resources if you'd like to learn more information from people who are in the industry. There are people who made blog posts from their own firsthand experiences as people who own publishing companies. So, as an example, Jamie Stegmaier over at Stonemaier Games has written a couple of blog posts that are very insightful if you'd like to just learn how this is affecting them. Nick from Bitewing Games also did a breakdown on the tariff situation, and we've included all of those links in the description below. We highly recommend you check out a few of them, if not all of them. And if you're not somebody who likes to read articles, then there are also videos that we've linked as well.
Other content creators have also spoken on tariffs and their effect on the board game industry. One notable would be Alex from Board Game Co. So if you're not familiar with his channel, he's made actually several videos regarding the subject matter. And so we highly recommend checking out his channel, which is linked down below. Please subscribe over there. He does a lot of content, and he's always up to date on the news, so please check out his channel as well.
Yes, his coverage on the tariff situation has been particularly good, I think. And like we said, we acknowledge the fact that the situation could go away tomorrow, but the truth of the matter is a lot of damage has already been done. And we personally know people who have lost jobs or who have had to minimize their staff because They just need to weather the storm.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in helping in any way, there are lots of ways that you can help that don't cost any money, because we know that people are in different situations. And if you can't help financially, then definitely don't. But the first way is if you're in the US, you can contact your local representatives and basically communicate to them your concerns about how the tariffs are not only affecting the board gaming industry, but just any of the industries that you care about.
There's a lot out there. Yeah.
This is not limited to board gaming. There are a lot of industries all over the world that are going to be affected by this.
Another way to help is dispelling misinformation as you see it. There's a lot of misinformation out there on a lot of subject matters, especially regarding tariffs. So just be hyper vigilant about what you're reading and just make sure you deep dive a little bit further to fully understand some of the subject matter.
Right. Sometimes people speak from a place of passion rather than anything that's sort of based off of fact, and it can be particularly harmful to everybody. And the last thing, which I know is sort of floofy, but patience, empathy, kindness, these things go a long way. They don't cost you any money. And we definitely acknowledge the fact that not only the companies, but also consumers are being affected, especially if you crowdfund out there. There's a lot of uncertainty about how campaigns that have not fulfilled yet are going to fulfill. There have been some rocky situations with specific publishers, but please keep in mind that, the business practices of one publisher does not necessarily reflect all of the publishers across the board.
Sure.
So, and they are all going through a very difficult time. So just having a little bit of patience and maybe not making their situation worse could be very helpful.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the list. Now, these are going to be from the perspective of 20 US-based publishers.
Yes.
And the way we ordered this was basically in alphabetical order.
Right, because we didn't know how else
We
to
didn't
order
know how
them.
else to do it, yeah.
And also, we understand that it's a bit short-sighted to make this American-based, but we had to narrow it down somehow.
yeah.
Just know that it's affecting publishers worldwide. Now, if you would like to help support by picking up games in general, then we recommend that you pick them up directly from the publishers via their web stores if they have them, or from your local gaming stores, because local gaming stores are a big, big part of what keeps the hobby alive, I think.
Part of the reason why we have a channel is
Yes.
we got into the hobby, then we went to the gaming stores, met a lot of people in our game groups there, buy games over there all the time, and so we like to support them as well.
So we actually did that recently.
We did.
We went to our local
Yeah.
gaming store that we know and love, and we picked up a couple of games.
Yes.
We haven't played them yet.
We haven't played. They're still in shrink
can't-
right here.
We can't tell you how they are, but if you've played them, let us know if you like them. This is Avant-Card. It's a game
Heard good things about it. I know very little, but it's a
published
card game.
by Resonim.
Resonim,
It
yeah.
has really avant-garde artwork on the cards.
Avant-garde.
And we also picked up a two-player only
game. Yeah. Floristry.
Called Floristry.
Yeah, so
It's
this one is you're like running I think a flower shop. And
Yeah.
it's like a 2-player auction game.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And yeah, two
looked
players.
nice,
There's
yeah.
an app. I have no idea. It sounded really intriguing.
It could
and
be
it's
great. It could be
beautiful.
terrible. Who knows? Yeah.
Yes.
We have no idea.
So if you played either of these games, let us know. And also, if you have recommendations from publishers with games that are on sale now, please leave them in the comments down below, just in case anybody out there would just like to know more about games. All right, kicking off the list, we have 25th Century Games. So we have reviewed quite a few of their
Several
games.
of them, yeah.
They make a lot of different games in various weights, but usually in the lighter
family
the lighter
weight
side.
games, yeah.
And the thing that I appreciate the most about 25th Century is their attention to theme. So a majority of the games are very colorful. The box art is very colorful as well. And so some games that we have played by them that we really enjoyed are games like Volonimo.
Volonimo.
On the
card
lighter
game,
end,
yeah.
that is a card game about animals on
Like
bicycles.
a racing bicycle card game, yeah.
Yes.
The theme is nothing in this one, but
The theme is, what do you mean?
it's nothing. But it's a fun little
It adds to
party
the
game.
whimsy.
Yeah.
We also played a cute dice game called Sausage Sizzle. We played that at PAX Unplugged
yeah.
last year and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's very cute
Is
as
that-
well.
That's the push your luck dice
Yes,
game, right? Yeah.
push your luck
okay,
dice rolling
yeah.
game. So if you're into dice games, then that's one. Volumino is a card game. More recently, we played a game called Junk Drawer,
Mm-hmm.
which I really put off for a very long time because what kind of a game is Junk Drawer?
It's a 20-minute
But-
polyomino semi-flip and lay kind of
Yes.
game where you're just trying to organize a junk drawer, try to score points based off of different scoring criteria.
Yes, it is crunchier than you think.
It is, yeah.
And on the heavier end, because we're going to try to give you games from both ends, I suppose, there's also Raw. Now, I don't think Raw is in print. Maybe you might find it at like a local game store or a secondhand or something, but that is a republished version of Raw
Reiner
from
Knizia.
Reiner Knizia.
Yeah,
So that
right.
is an
Auction
auction
game.
game. Very well done. Probably one of my favorite auction games.
I really like it. I still have the app on my phone. I don't think you can get that app anymore on the iOS App Store. So
That's a shame.
that's too bad. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that game. And those are just a few of the games that we played from 25th Century, probably some of our favorites.
Yep.
We have a couple more that we're going to be playing over the next couple of months
Yeah.
that we've been really looking forward to, such as like Witchcraft and Jekyll and Hyde
Versus Scotland Yard. We put that on a list maybe 2
Ages
years
ago.
and
Yeah.
we never got to play it. So it's finally coming in. So we'll finally let you know what we think about it.
And they have a sale going on right now as well.
Mm.
Now, for all of these sales, I don't know how long they're going to last. A lot of them are only until the end of the month, which unfortunately that's today. So if you're interested in any of these titles, we just suggest you checking out their web store.
Next, we have Allplay. They are pretty widely known now in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
They have
I mean, if you've gone to a convention especially, you know Allplay.
Allplay, yeah. Typically small box games, sometimes a little bit bigger, but clever, simple to learn, easy to get into,
Yes.
sometimes party games, sometimes just light little strategy games.
Yes, they also, their games also sort of run the gamut in terms of how heavy and what sort of game, but they have a ton of games in their catalog.
a lot of titles, yeah.
And not only that, but they're also a company that helps out other publishers behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think they do some sort of distribution deal with a lot of different publishers. I'm not exactly sure
do.
how that all works in the industry.
They do a lot of stuff with other publishers, sort of helping them get their games to distribution. So we appreciate them a lot. They also take really good care of making their components really look nice, and their boxes are small.
Small, always
So
like that, yeah.
recently they came out with Things and Rings. That was one of my favorite games from last year that came out.
Yeah.
Sort of party game-ish.
Party
but
word game, but
deduction-
less like so deduction,
Deduction word
less
game.
party, but it is still in that party-ish
Less party.
genre. Yeah.
Very silly, Dr. Seuss style cards and 3 rings in a Venn diagram sort of formation. But we've talked a lot about that game last year. I think it was also last year that we played Sail, which was a 2-player only trick-taking game, and we love trick-taking games.
Yeah, you're basically trying to play tricks, and you want certain people to win because you're navigating this ship, aka why it's called Sail, is because you're trying to navigate around different terrain, and it's very, very clever for a 2-player only trick-taking game.
Yes.
I know Sail Legacy will be coming out in the coming months. That will be going to Kickstarter. And so just be on the lookout for that as well.
On the heavier end, it's not quite heavy, but it's very different. In the past, we really loved QE, which is a really interesting take on an auction game where you're bidding money, but you don't know how much people are bidding.
Yeah, it's best at probably 5, the full 5 complement, because it can play up to 5 players. I have played it at 3 players. Not the biggest fan, but if you do find yourself in game groups of 5, this is actually a pretty fun one to play.
And if anything else, it's a really interesting social experiment.
It is, yeah.
And I'm just going to name a couple more because there are a lot of titles from Allplay that I like. But there's also Bites, which I don't hear people talk about too much.
Yeah, that's a clever.
ant.
It's like an ant picnic. It's basically a stock market style game where you're trying to make certain fruits be more valuable at the end. And
It's very cute.
Very cute,
it's light and it's interesting.
Yeah.
And another trick taker is Ghost of Christmas. So I know that one's a little bit polarizing because it's a bit strange.
I didn't like it the first time I played it because I played it on BGA, but then when I actually played it in person, I actually really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it's a very mental game of trick taking where you're playing tricks that are going to activate in the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
And that's the order that they're going to resolve once all of the hands have been played out, but you are deciding where they go in real
You're
time.
trying to
wild.
make an educated guess on how to program what's going to trigger at what time.
Yeah.
And it's going to alter what's the trump suit at the right time. So it's a very, very clever game.
Yes, I think it's cool.
Yeah, good one.
All right, next we have Arcane Wonders. So they are another publisher that publishes a lot of games. I believe they recently had a sale. It might have ended today.
done.
I'm not quite sure. You can check in on that.
Yeah.
But some games that we really enjoy by them are Aquatica, which is probably one of the most recent games that we had covered. We covered the game with the expansion.
With the expansion, yeah.
But honestly, it's good on its own as just the base game itself. That was a game that was introduced to me by Tim Chuan, and we actually made a playthrough over on his channel, myself and Tim.
That's the first time you played it?
That was the first time I played it, and I was very enthused by it because it's so quirky. You're like sea people.
Yeah.
It's cute.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good one.
In the past, I've also really enjoyed Onitama. I think I might be alone in this. That's an abstract strategy game that is
Onitama? Is that
unique
the
on its
tower
own.
one?
Huh? It comes in a box.
In the box tower?
That is
That's theirs?
tall.
I didn't even know that was
I
theirs.
think it's
Okay.
theirs.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh, I hope I'm not wrong. But I really, really enjoyed Onitama because it's sort of like a chess-like abstract strategy.
Is that the one where like how the pieces move
Yes.
will rotate?
Yes, there
I'm
are
very
only
bad at that game.
certain ways that the pieces can move, and it's based off of these cards. But once you use a card, it gets moved off to the side, which
Right.
will then eventually make its way to your opponent.
So there's a lot of
So-
like I remember this. You're like trying to set up your next move, knowing what the move card is going to come in to play.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
thought it was a very creative way to do an abstract strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
And another title, which is actually not the version that we'd played, but it's a game called Craftwagon.
Ah, yeah.
So I don't think we've really talked about this game
Matthias
on our
Kramer
channel
game.
before.
Oh, yeah.
This is a game that was originally designed by Matthias Kramer. Now they have a different version of it, so we haven't played that new
version,
version.
yeah.
We played the original Craftwagon, and it's about making cars.
Yeah, you're in the
So-
auto industry in Germany.
Yes.
Very Euro style game, and it had a clever rondelle
system.
sequence.
Yeah. Really like that
Yeah.
game.
Next publisher, Bezier Games. Now they have
Mm-hmm.
a ton of different type of games. They have kind of larger strategy games and also small card games.
Yes.
We like a lot of their titles. We cover a lot of them on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites though from them and still is on our collection, the original version, Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is a auction style game where you're trying to build out a castle and
I
score
love
the
that
most amount of
game.
points. Yeah. It's a very good 3 and up player game because
Yes,
of the way the
yes.
auction works.
Right.
You can still play it at 2, but I highly recommend it at 3 and 4.
That is one of the games that we first played getting into the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those games that sort of just stood the test of time.
Yeah.
I want to say it helped put sort of Bezier on the map.
Sure.
But since then, they've released a lot of card games. So last year in particular, they had a string of card games, including Rebel Princess, which is a trick-taking game that is more beginner-friendly, that I really enjoyed with a very interesting theme.
It's got like a hearts. It's like hearts meets trick taking. That
Mm-hmm. Yes,
particular one,
right.
where you're basically trying to avoid getting.
Yeah, it's trick avoidance.
You're trying to avoid tricks that have this prince because you're these rebels who don't want to get proposed to.
Right. Another trick-taking game is Cat in the Box, which is one of my favorite trick-taking games because it's a suitless trick-taking game.
Okay, that game.
It's difficult.
I've tried to explain that game at a convention when the pressure is on to somebody
what a
who has
mistake.
never played trick taking.
What?
They were the 5th person add-on because you can play this game up to 5.
That poor
4 of
soul.
us knew how to play trick taking, so it was like, okay, we can all teach. But this one gentleman, really nice guy, sat down and was just like nodding his head, like,
Oh, you should have just played together as the same team. That would have been good.
yeah, he figured it out in the end.
Okay.
He had a good time. Every time I see him,
Yeah.
we still laugh about him
About
trying
that.
to understand how to play this game.
Okay, so that one is not beginner friendly,
Not.
unlike Rebel Princess,
Yeah.
but still very good if you enjoy trick-taking games.
Yeah.
And on the heavier end, there's Maglev Metro.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's right.
that is a game that we have produced a couple of playthroughs for, maybe.
Yeah, we did one on, I believe, Watch It Played.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting take on pick up and deliver.
You're trying to get commuters. You're trying to build out the track and get commuters from A to B.
Yes.
To score the most amount of points.
Very heady in terms of how you have to sort of organize your board to increase certain abilities
Yes.
to allow you to do that.
Right.
And there are a ton of different maps, and I believe some are going to be coming out. More of them are going to be coming out soon. Next, we have a company called Bitewing Games. Now, we work with them a lot on their crowdfunding campaigns. And to tell you the truth, they are a publisher that every time we know they're going to be releasing a game that we're going to be covering, I really look forward to it because we know that they take very good care of the games that they're going to be releasing. They also re-release a lot of Reiner Knizia games. And we both really enjoy Reiner Knizia designs.
Yeah.
And the component quality is just always so good.
Yeah, they take very good care. Every aspect of it, from even the box,
Yes.
the art style, and then also every single game, they have a really good knack for picking out little gems.
They really do.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done several of their playthroughs on the channel.
And they have a very good crowdfunding record. The people who own the company, Nick is one of them who wrote that blog post. They're very, very smart people.
Yeah.
We really sort of trust their judgment on things. And so we highly recommend you read their blog post.
Yeah.
But some of the games that we really enjoy, they do release a lot of lighter games, but also, like we were mentioning, the Reiner Knizia titles, which even with Reiner Knizia titles are heavier in thought. The thing that I really appreciate about him as a designer is his rule set is usually pretty simple.
Quicker to get into than most other designers, for sure.
A lot of times it's like on your turn, you place a tile,
Yeah.
draw a tile. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot of his style of games.
Yep.
So games that I really enjoyed include Trailblazer,
Oh, yeah.
which is one of the first ones I think that we've covered. That's
Yeah,
a
that
Ryan
one,
Courtney design.
Ryan Courtney design. You are trying to build out 3 different types of trails
Yeah.
to score points. So basically, you're trying to get them back to your home base and create loops and see different wildlife and animals.
But if you're familiar with Pipeline or Curious Cargo, which are other games that Ryan Courtney designed, these trails are not going to fit into your plans. It's
not gonna be
so
easy.
It's not an easy tiling game
Yeah.
by any means.
One that I really, really enjoy, and this is very group dependent, is a game called Gussie Gorillas.
Yes.
If you are familiar with a game called Pit, it's basically a real-time negotiation game, but in Hanabi style. So in this game,
The cards are pointing outward.
Yeah, your hand of cards, actually everybody else can see, and you can see what everybody else has, but you have no idea what you are negotiating away, but
Yeah.
you know what you want to input from other people. And it's just a real-time kind of game where you're trying to score the most amount of points, but there's also some pitfalls in it because you can accidentally cancel some scores out,
Yes.
what you don't know what you're giving away and what you're going to accidentally receive. So that's a really, really clever one. It's probably best with 5+.
Yeah, it's very silly.
it is.
It's more of a party game.
It's a party
'cause
game,
It's
yeah.
real time, so keep that in mind. But it feels just like a game called Pit, which
Yeah.
is a very, very old classic game. So is that your favorite Bitewing game?
That's
Naveed
probably my
really
favorite
loves
Bitewing
Gussie
game. I love that
Gorillas.
game, yeah.
You always want to take that to a convention or
I know.
something.
I'm going to force people to play it.
Now, on the heavier end, it's not quite heavy, but it is more involved in these other quicker games. There's Zoo Vadis. So Zoo Vadis is a very interesting negotiation game where you are different animals in a zoo and you're just trying to have the most prestige or reputation or something like
Yes.
that. You're just trying to get to the very top of the board by negotiating your way to be able to do that. There's a
Yeah.
lot more to it than that.
The clever one about that is everybody has a special power, but
Yeah.
you cannot use that special power for yourself.
Right.
You can only use it as part of a negotiation to get something else done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very fun.
Clever game, yeah.
It's a very, very, very clever take on negotiation.
Next, we have Brotherwise Games, who are also based in Southern California, just like we are.
Yes,
Angelinos.
it's true.
So one of their games that I really enjoyed is designed by John DeClaire, and it's called Empire's End. This is one of those games where you are trying to keep everything afloat. You have an empire that's at its peak, and then all that's going to happen from there is everything is going to crumble. This one, I do highly recommend playing it at the full player complement.
Yes.
2-player, it's kind of just back and forth.
Right.
4-player is a little bit more interesting.
They were also known for, on the lighter end, Boss Monster, which is a game that was on the shelves when we were first getting into the hobby
Yeah.
that had the really interesting sort of 8-bit art.
Your cousin, once he found out that we were into board games,
Yeah.
he gifted that
He
to
gifted
you
that to
before we
me.
got into content
And I
creation.
played it
A ton.
a lot.
Yeah.
It just sort of, you set up your thing, you sort of run it. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
They've also, since then, made Overboss, which is sort of a Boss Monster adjacent game, but more tile laying, also very light,
Mm-hmm.
but very, very cute, I would say. And then there's Night of the Ninjas, if you enjoy social deduction. I know that's a game that Paula really likes. We played, I think with a Watch It Played team.
We did, yeah.
And Dungeon Cart. So
Dungeon
that's their
Cart.
take on racing, like a racing style game. Very silly. I played that before with Paula
I
too,
haven't
I
played
think.
that one, yeah.
And Naveed has not played it, but it's a very interesting take on racing. All right, next up we have Capstone Games. Now, they're a publisher that deeply aligns with our taste in games.
yeah.
So there are a ton of titles that we could list here. We will keep it to a minimum, though. They're also based in, I think, Cincinnati, Ohio,
yeah.
and they have a retail store.
Yes,
So if
that's
you're
right.
local
Brick and mortar, yeah.
and you're interested in helping out or something, then I would suggest visiting the retail store.
Mm-hmm.
But some titles on the lighter end that we have enjoyed in the past include Savannah Park,
Yes.
which is a game that we actually still have in our collection.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like simultaneous tile laying of animals
Mm-hmm.
in your park. Very clever. It's a game that I think I taught with Rodney at a convention.
Yeah, she taught it as like a mega game
Yeah.
at AirCon.
At AirCon.
One of the years that
That
we
was
went.
really fun.
Yeah.
And everybody really enjoyed it. So
It's a-
Savannah Park, family-friendly game.
It's in their like Capstone Games family line.
Yes.
They have like a different logo for that.
Right, because they are usually known for heavier titles, but
Right.
they do have these lighter end games that I really appreciate for families.
Mm-hmm.
And another title in that sort of spectrum is Wandering Towers.
Yeah, Wandering Towers, yeah.
That is so silly, but it's
Yeah.
so fun. We played that one with Michael on our channel.
We did a 3-player play of that.
Yeah.
That one is better with higher player counts
Yes,
because
definitely.
basically there are these towers that are literally wandering and moving around,
Yeah.
and you have meeples or different workers of yours that eventually get covered up, and so you have to kind of keep track, like, oh, where is my characters amongst these different towers
Yeah.
that are wandering. So it's silly fun.
It's silly fun.
But it's actually strategic at the same time.
Yeah, and that one is great for families. So, we played that a few times, we covered it, and then just because of the nature of our channel, we sort of have to play a lot of games. So we gave our copy of Wandering Towers to Michael, who then played it with his family because he has kids, and they had a blast.
They love
so
that
they
one,
really love that game. On the heavier end, there's Gaia Project, which is a game that we also still have in our collection. I would love to do sort of a mini, like a just maybe one episode talk comparing all the different Terra Mysticas.
Terra Mystica, there's the, what's the other one? Terra Nova.
Which is like the lighter.
And then Gaia Project.
Gaia Project, which was the heavier version of Terra Mystica. And
Age
then
of Innovation.
Age of Innovation, which was the newest, even heavier, I believe, title that came out from Capstone, too.
Yeah.
So Gaia Project, really, really love. And then, of course, Arc Nova.
Yeah, one of our favorites.
Has
definitely in the top
become,
50. Yeah.
Yes, quickly become one of my favorite games of all time. And it is, we're still planning on redoing our top 50. That sort of
we will do it.
Fell off the cliff last year, but it's most likely going to happen this year. And you will probably see that.
Arc Nova is going to be on there.
Appearance.
Let's keep it real. Next, of course, we have to talk about Gryphon Games. They do all the Lacerdas.
They do.
Of course, if you have been following our channel, you know that we are big fans of Vital Lacerda Games.
Yes.
And so basically we can list almost
Every
all of them,
Lacerda.
except for CO2. I don't think CO2 is in their particular line.
That was a Renegade,
That is
I think.
I don't remember who did that one. But,
I could be wrong.
You could be wrong.
But that is the one that they did not.
They did not have their hands on. But pretty much all of the Vital Lacerda games, of course, we have to give a shout out to those. And then
I don't know how those are going to be affected, but those are expensive games.
Those are expensive games,
To be speaking truthfully, those are expensive games, and I don't know how these sorts of games will fare in this climate. But
I mean, I would imagine they're already here in the U.S. at this point, right? They've already been shipped. Now, the only one that is still outstanding is Speakeasy, because that's the one that has not fulfilled, but every other one has fulfilled. So there should be stock in the U.S.
When we did our top, when we did the Lacerda series, that was before even Weather Machine. So we will probably redo our ranking.
I think we will
at some point. Just Vitala puts out a lot of games.
I think
very often.
I think once Speakeasy becomes like a game that is available to the public, then we will re-rank.
We'll re-rank
at that point.
Yes, because things have definitely changed. Now, something that I don't know if a lot of people know is Gryphon makes other games.
They do,
not just Vital Lacerda games. So, but also speaking on Vital, when we recently went to our local gaming store, we also saw Bot Factory on the shelves. And if you are not interested in these big heavy experiences, Bot Factory is probably our favorite. Do you agree?
That's
my favorite of the small.
So they did like Mercado
series.
de Lisboa, which was like a small little section of Lisboa.
Yeah.
Bot Factory, which is like Kanban, a miniature version, and then
but one of the mechanics in
there's
Kanban.
the other one, House of Fado.
Yes, House of Fado.
Yeah. So, but of those, all that line of games, I think Bot Factory is my favorite.
Yeah,
it,
I like
it
that one a
maintains
lot.
the most amount of essence of the bigger game. That it's like it's Big Brother, but it still gets you that full satisfaction of the entirety of the game.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
They're robots.
Robots, yeah.
In addition, Gryphon is also known, I believe, for Age of Steam,
yeah.
which is a game that I've always wanted to cover on the channel, but we never have had the chance.
It's just such a better 3+ player
It
game.
is.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a Railroad, probably my favorite of the Railroad games.
We have it. We have the Kickstarter edition. We backed it back.
Yeah, back when it was on Kickstarter, and it is mean, just so you know. But there is a cult following for this game because there are tons of maps. There's an Age of Steam convention. It's definitely.
I would love to play that game again. It's been a long time. I do like that game a lot.
Yeah, he likes it more than I do. But next up, we have Floodgate Games. Now you're probably familiar with them because of games such as Sagrada.
Oh yeah.
That's probably one of the first games of theirs that we'd played.
It's probably their most famous game, I want to say.
Maybe. That one's still on our shelf. Really enjoy that game as a dice drafting
Dice drafting,
game.
You're making like the stained glass of the Sagrada Familia.
Yeah.
You're trying to score based off of different parameters.
Naveen has been wanting to do a playthrough of that game, just random playthrough, just Sagrada playthrough.
I think it would be
for
make
years.
for a fantastic playthrough.
Yeah, he's like, can we just take Sagrada off the shelf and play it?
Just play it. Yeah.
Still a game that we really enjoy. And I know that they've recently been doing these Sudoku puzzle challenges for Sagrada. So if you are an avid Sagrada fan, there is more content out there for you. They're also recently known for Decorum, which is a game that I was very surprised by because the first time we'd played Decorum, it's a cooperative house decorating game with limited communication. The first time we'd played it was in a 4-player experience, which was very difficult. So I wasn't sure how I would just enjoy the rest of the game. But when we played at 2, oh my gosh, I love decorum.
I actually like it
Love it.
at any player count. Basically, you have your own personal set of desires for what the house is supposed to be laid out and designed as. Whether
Yeah.
it's like I need yellow to be in all the upper floors and the blue paint on all the bottom floors, and then there's different objects that you have to place in and place out, and you only have so many turns to make the house fit not only your needs but also the needs of everybody else that's around the table.
Yes.
Because there's going to be things that's like it's kind of almost a puzzle.
Yeah,
It's like
it is a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a deduction puzzle
Where it's
you have your requirements and the other player has their requirements, and both of them have to be true.
Yeah, it's like if I need a certain type of like antique lamp to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And you also need it, but it just needs to be somewhere in the house.
Right.
But maybe I've put it in a place that counteracts what you need because like, oh, no blue lamps in that area.
Yes.
So you
Then
got to
I'm gonna
find a
take
way.
it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so really, really enjoy that. There's the decorum base game, and then there's also the expansion, which is the one that we covered. I think it's called Moving Out.
Yeah.
So if you play through the entire decorum campaign, then you can also play through the expansion, which comes with another entire campaign that you can play through. And that's just a game that is so bingeable for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe it's partner dependent. So
Yeah.
just so you know,
I mean, it's co-op, technically,
I don't
yeah.
know if my enjoyment of it is also just because
We
play it together very well and we enjoy playing it together well. But yeah, love that game.
Yeah. And then there's also Kites, which is a card game, real-time cooperative game. The theme
You
is
like real-time games.
some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of I do. Okay, hot take. I do not like Captain Sonar real time. I'm sorry. I just do not
That
like
is a
one.
hot take.
Captain Sonar.
I love that
I love
game.
Captain Sonar. The real time, I'm not a fan of it.
It stresses you out too much.
It just devolves.
Okay.
You know
It just
everybody's
devolves.
nobody's playing legit. Everybody's cheating accidentally.
But when it works, oh, it hits so hard. Okay. That's fair. That's
one
fair.
side will take 8 turns before the other side takes like their second turn.
Yeah,
It's just
frustrating.
it's just a mess.
Okay, so real-time to an extent.
To
if
an
it's a
extent,
smaller...
yes. Exactly.
Okay.
So Kites, this is it can play up to 6 players, and basically there are these sand timers that represent kites, and you're trying to keep them afloat. How are they afloat? Is when the sand is actually running. You lose if ever a sand timer cannot be flipped and it actually runs out of time. And there's just a clever way that you just kind of play your cards in a certain sequence in order to keep the kites afloat.
Yeah.
And you are trying to essentially just play through the entire deck
Right.
before the timers run out.
Also a party game. You know, it's real-time.
Very group dependent.
silly. Yeah,
Yeah.
very group dependent.
You can feel the pressure when things come around to you, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Just play yellow. Just please.
Yeah, so
if you
there's
can
going to be
play.
some of
Yeah.
that, so you have to be comfortable with that.
Yes. Now, since then, other games have come out using sand timers. I still think that Kites has done it the best. And one last game I just really want to mention before we move on, because I know they picked up this title like a year and a half ago or something, is Caesar. So they had a 2-player line that has these strategic Paolo Mori games.
Right.
And of the 3, Caesar is my favorite.
Yeah,
So
that's
really,
one.
really good 2-player game.
Roman themed, and it's kind of like a semi-area control where you're playing out a chit, and it has to go between the border of different segments of ancient Rome. And it's just a really, really clever one. We have done a playthrough of it on the channel, so if you are interested in it, check out. Just search before you play
The entire
Caesar.
3-game series is interesting, but Caesar in particular, I really, really enjoyed. Next, we have Incredible Dream Studios. Now, they're a smaller publisher that you may know from Kinfire Chronicles. I think Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall.
They do the whole Kinfire universe.
Yes.
That's the
so
the
that
first
was like
one.
the main big game that's campaign based, but from that game, that world has basically evolved into all these other games, such as Kinfire Delve, which is a game that we have covered over.
Several
I think we've
times,
covered
yeah.
all of the ones that have been released, and that is a fully cooperative game where you're deep diving,
Into a well,
card based,
yep.
down into a well, trying to get to the very bottom to defeat its master. And I believe there have been 3 released in that series so far.
Like Vainglory's Grotto.
Yes, we've covered all 3.
I can't remember all of them, yeah.
If you'd like to see how they're played. Now, one thing that we haven't mentioned in the past is anytime we cover a game on our channel several times, it's usually because we really enjoy it. Because if we don't enjoy a game, it's just not worth it to do it again.
Yeah.
Just because of a lot of this is very, very time consuming. So we've never really had the chance to talk about how we feel about Kinfire Delve. That's got to be one of my favorite cooperative card gaming experiences.
Yeah, it doesn't take up a lot
Really
of
well
space. Very easy. Once you know the system, it's easy to plug in the different versions of it.
Yeah.
And it's just got clever card play where like there's just enough going on where you're trying to figure out like this card could be played on this, but that other monster is actually a really big problem. So maybe we have to attack that and kind of get back. So there's a really big collaborative effort.
It's
with that
definitely
one. Yeah.
a cooperative experience. So also keep that in mind because there are people out there who don't typically enjoy co-op games.
That's true, yeah.
But you can combine the boxes and all sorts of things. Now the Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall is that campaign game. That's like one of the few campaigns that I've actually wanted to sit and play through. I just haven't had the time.
It's for our situation
Yeah.
as content creators. It's kind of tough to sit through campaign style games,
Yes.
but I can see it right over there.
I really want
didn't
to.
put it away.
There are so many campaign games that I want to finish. We just can't.
It's hard, yeah.
It's hard, but it's such a immersive world, and the art style in all of these games is really beautiful. Now, if you are a solo gamer, I've covered one of their solo games called A Gentle Rain.
Not in the universe.
Not
at
in
all.
that universe,
Completely different.
but it's by the same designer as a lot of their games, and that's actually a playthrough that I did on our channel. That's more like a soothing experience where you're just kind of putting out flowers on a lake. It's really beautiful. I was very enthused by that game, and that's still one that we have in our collection as well.
Next, we have Ivy Games or Ivy Studios. You're probably familiar with them. They did Moonrakers. Also, one of our favorite games that we have played from them is Mythic Mischief.
Yeah.
Which is technically a 2 to 4 player game, but I think it plays best at 2 players.
I
where
think
you're
so.
basically you're in a school and you are trying to get your opponent to get knocked out. How do I describe this?
You're
game?
different
It's
fantasy creatures.
fantasy creature,
in a
abstract
school.
strategy game.
And you're trying to avoid the bookkeeper who's like the tome keeper who's like walking around.
go, that's it.
And so you're trying to get your opponent to lose points by them going into the way of the bookkeeper.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that.
Everybody has an asymmetric kind of faction.
Yes.
And so there's a way that kind of you can manipulate your opponents and also the different walls that kind of create the pathway of the Tome Keeper.
Yeah,
That's a very clever one. We've done, I think, 2 playthroughs of them.
Yes, and similar to Kinfire Delve, like I said, we wouldn't do repeat playthroughs
Yeah.
if we didn't like them.
Yep.
That is probably one of my favorite abstract games to come out in the past 5 years. Like that's definitely my favorite of the Ivy games.
It's both of our favorite title from Ivy Games. Yeah, for sure.
I always really look forward to the new ones that are coming out because they're all asymmetric in terms of their abilities, and also similar to Incredible Dream, their their illustrations and the artwork on all of their games is so good.
Very nice, yeah.
Because I think they are a visual design studio.
I think they do digital
original.
design.
And then they also have the games.
Is digital design even a real thing? Is that
We're
even the
so
right terminology?
not well versed. We're so
They
sorry.
do graphic design for things.
I know that there's a difference though between graphic designers and
Illustration.
illustrators, and so I
Maybe
don't
they
want
do it
to
all. I don't
misname
know.
what they do,
Yeah.
but their artwork is always very, very nice.
Okay.
So they did Mythic Mischief. Another one that we've enjoyed is Moonrakers, but that is also very group dependent.
Yes, yeah.
That's a negotiation sort of
It's
game.
like there's like negotiation and then it stalls out because nobody wants to help the
because
last
nobody
guy.
wants to help you.
Yeah.
So there is that. But they've also released a ton of other games. There's Veiled Fate. There's Moon Rollers now. They recently had a campaign for Tend, which is
yeah.
a very sandboxy sort of farming
Simulator,
kind
yeah.
of game. And right now they're actually doing they have a sale right now on their website for specifically to combat the tariffs, and they call it the Terrific Tariff Trade.
Okay.
So if you'd like to learn more about that, then we encourage you to check out their website.
Next, we have Leader Games, who does not really need too much of an introduction. They made the very popular game called Root.
Right.
That is a asymmetric, cutesy war game.
But yes, cutesy in appearance,
Yeah.
but not in play.
That might not be a game for everybody, but it is one that we both still really enjoy.
Yeah.
Another one that we've done several playthroughs of.
That is one of our that is my favorite leader game for sure.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people around the world would echo that sentiment because Root is super popular.
Yeah.
But another game on the lighter end that we have played in the past that we still have and enjoy is called Fort.
Yeah.
So I really, really like that game. It's very cute. It's like a kid
Deck building.
it's a deck building game.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more to it, and there's like a lot of player interaction. It's really interesting
Yeah,
game.
you're trying to like load up your backpack and get pizza and,
And toys.
And you're trying to get the best friends to be played. But then if you ignore some of your friends by not playing the cards, because
Yeah.
it's one of those games where if you play certain cards and you discard some, all the cards are different names of friends.
Yeah, it's
And
so
so if you
cute.
ignore them, then your opponents have the opportunity to actually steal your best friends away from you. and then they can actually use them against you.
Yes.
So it's a good game.
And of course, you're trying to build your fort.
You are, yeah.
More recently, they came out with Arcs, which was another really, really popular title, which wasn't necessarily for us, but like I was mentioning, a lot of people out there love it.
Yeah.
And one title that doesn't get a whole lot of buzz that I really, really enjoyed is a title called Vast. So for all
I never
you
got to play this
people-
one.
You didn't?
I never played it.
Oh.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah.
There's an issue with the rules overhead. It's going to be very similar to Root because this is a highly asymmetric game where one player is like the knight, another player plays as the cave, and another player plays as a dragon. And you all there's like checks and balances that kind of keep one person from winning until somebody makes a mistake. And then,
So it's like the dragon, like the knight wants to slay the dragon.
Yes.
But the cave wants to make sure the knight is crushed within the cave. And so it's like one of those.
It's
Yeah.
really,
Okay.
really interesting concept.
Like a rock, paper, scissors keep in check?
Yes,
Okay.
and that was way more asymmetric than Root. And I'm one of the people who really, really, really love Vast. All right, we're getting to the tail end of this list. So sorry if we've been speaking very fast, but we just have to get through a lot of publishers.
20 names.
So next up, we have NorthStar Games. You might be familiar with them. You actually might know them from Wits and Wagers.
Is that their game?
That's their game that's really, really popular, but
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
they're very known for games such as Evolution. Like the
Evolution,
Evolution
yeah.
series. That's what people typically know them for. Or
Oceans?
which is a title that we really, really liked. So
Yeah.
out of all of the nature-y themed games that they make, Oceans is the one that I like the most.
That one, now you have to be okay with an aggressive game. That
Yes.
one is attacky. So it's not like...
Just like the ocean.
Just like the ocean. That one, you're
That's
basically creating different species, and you're trying to keep them alive by also defending yourself from oncoming species trying to attack you. Very, very tough game because if you play with Monique is very good at that game, and
You gotta
I'm
be
so
cutthroat
bad at
to
that
win in
one.
the ocean,
I'm
so
really bad at that one.
I
Yeah.
really enjoy Oceans. More notably, recently they came out with Nature, which is something, it's a game that's not widely released yet, but I know...
I think it's going to be a Gen Con release.
Yes.
I think it will be.
I think
yeah.
so. But I know that in response to the tariffs and just sort of their response on the Kickstarter campaign, they came out with a mini expansion that you could add if you're a backer to sort of help combat that.
Oh,
I
I
don't
see.
know. I don't know that that's still available, but
Yeah.
just so you know that is something that they were doing.
Okay.
And on the lighter end, I know Naveen in particular introduced me to a game called Inheritors, which is one that they had picked up to publish.
Yeah, somebody taught it to me at a local convention. Was like, "You're gonna love it. Just trust me. Just play it." And I was like, "All right, fine. Let's see what this game is." And I was like, "Man, this game is great." So Inheritors.
So he came home and was like, "Monique, you're gonna love
Yeah,
it.
so
Just trust me."
it was like a telephone game.
Yeah.
So this is a game that was technically not originally published by them. I think it's from
They picked it up.
a Chinese publisher or somewhere in Asia, and they made some tweaks to it. Very welcome tweaks. And so if you haven't checked out that one, that's called Inheritors.
And another one, just because I want to add this title because we've covered it before, and it's just such an interesting deduction game. It's called Paint the Roses.
Yeah.
So that is a deduction game where you are trying to put out tiles. It's like Alice in Wonderland themed.
Painting
Very
the Roses. Yeah.
very interesting in design. You can lose very suddenly, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a while since we played that, but I remember that one is...
It's hard.
It's like a
Very difficult.
limited communication
Yeah.
cooperative game where you
Yes.
need certain roses to be in certain colors and in a certain configuration. That one, I remember we've played it at 2 and 3, and I think the 3-player experience was better.
Was better.
Because of the communication and the cooperative nature of
Yeah.
it.
And I know that they had come out with a bunch of mini expansions in one that were all designed by different people, which I
I
thought
see.
was really cool.
Okay. Next, we have Pandasaurus Games, who have a wide variety of different titles, from big box games to small little card games. One of my absolute favorites, and I'm sure you have heard us talk about it if you watch our channel, is a game called The Game. And that is
Yeah.
one that is a cooperative. We like a lot of cooperative games, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because we
I
talk
know
about it.
Naveen
I
loves
do,
cooperative
yeah.
games, so I play them with
But
him.
you like this one.
I enjoy
Don't act
cooperative
like-
games.
No, you
but
like
not
this particular
Oh yeah,
game.
I
Yeah.
really like the game because we get
Yeah.
real silly with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're really supposed to play it this aggressively.
So it's,
we play it very aggressively.
It's called The Game because it's a deck of cards that are numbered 2 through 98, I believe. Oh, no,
99.
it's 2 through 99.
99.
Yeah, and then basically there are 4 different piles, and you're trying to play cards in a sequence cooperatively, so that you can completely erode the entire deck. You want to get rid of the whole
you want to
thing.
shed
the whole
entire
thing.
deck, yeah.
On your turn, you have to play at least 2 cards, and there's 2 piles of cards going in ascending order, 2 that are going in descending order. So you're going to find yourselves in positions where you're starting to ruin certain piles because your spread of cards that are in your hands force you to play cards, and it just gets real silly.
Yeah, it gets real silly.
It's a fun one. It's really hard to search. It's called The Game.
Yes, it's called The Game.
The Game.
There's also the game like Face to Face. There's the game Extreme, I think, something like that. My favorite is still just the regular The Game.
The Game, yeah.
With or without the Fire expansion.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we played like every version of this game.
One, yeah.
But there's one little thing to it that Naveen wasn't mentioning, where because piles are going higher and higher, and eventually it's going to max out if you get to the very top, and now you can't play certain numbers. Yeah. Well, there is one way to go in the opposite direction, and it's if you play a card that is exactly 10 lower than that card.
Yeah, it depends on which direction of the pile. So if something's ascending in order, and somebody puts down a 33, if somebody has a 23 on their turn, they can put it on top of the 33, thereby reducing that number by 10.
Time, so that we can continue to play
and
cards.
The same is true on the descending pile. So if somebody puts 66, then you can kind of pump it back up by putting 76.
Yeah.
So there's a nice little combination.
Actually really simple if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very simple game, but for some reason it just doesn't get old for us, and we like to finish our game nights with it.
It's a great finisher.
The game. Mm-hmm. You may also be familiar with Pandasaurus through games such as Machi Koro, which is a game that is sort of like Catan. That was there when we were getting into the hobby.
It's like
very
the crap
cute
style,
yeah, very very cute game. Or Dinosaur Island, which I think was really 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 popular.
I never played it. I never played.
I played it. It was
you
fun.
played it, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's like a Jurassic Park, the board game. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, you're trying to build a theme
but you're not
park
getting killed or mauled
with dinosaurs.
Or
No.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that mean.
Okay.
There's no Jurassic Park arc in it.
I see. Okay.
But on the abstract side of things, another game by them that I really enjoyed was That Time You Killed Me. That is another
one for you. Yeah.
really interesting take on abstract games, where there's 3 boards, and one thing that you do on one board sort of affects what happens on the next
future.
In the future, the next board next to it. So you can't just focus on one board. You have to keep all 3 of them in
I'm not
your sights.
very good at abstract strategy games, so this one is not one of my favorites.
He gets soured.
But I do like another title of theirs called The Loop.
Oh,
which is where you're trying
Loop.
to.
That's very silly.
It's a cooperative game where there's like this evil doctor that you're trying to combat, and there's like this clever tower mechanism where you drop these cubes in, and where the cubes scatter is kind of the areas that you have to deal with.
Yes, difficult game, but that is more for families, definitely. Like The Loop, if we had, I would play that with families.
Yep.
But That Time You Killed Me is 2-player only. And there's like a little mini campaign that you can kind of go on, but that's on the tougher end. And more recently, Far Away and Castle Combo are 2 smaller card games that we really enjoyed.
Yeah, Far Away, clever. You're trying to, you're going on a far away vacation. You're trying to play out cards, but then the way they score is in reverse order of the way you played it. So you have to get certain icons into the later stage to then score them in the first stage.
Yes.
So it's kind of your brain has to think in the future, but also in the present.
That's a nice one
Very
to play
strange,
if you have higher player counts.
Yeah.
And Castle Combo is one that is really popular right now, I think. And that one is where you're trying to build out your own grid of 9x9, or 3x3, sorry.
Yeah.
9 cards total. But the way that you take the cards from the display and how they sort of affect each other on your grid is sort of what makes the game. So Pandasaurus is another one of those companies where their artwork is always really stellar. Next up, we have Plaid Hat Games. Now, they're a publisher who used to publish Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game.
One of my favorites, yeah.
But since then, they have released a few titles in the Crossroads series, including Forgotten Waters, which is actually not one that I played.
We have not played that one.
Can't vouch for that,
Yeah.
but we have played Freelancers. And same thing, really beautiful artwork. These are campaign-style games. That's another one that I would have loved to go through in full. It uses an app, but it has this booklet thing where you kind of go, you do battles, everything's in the book.
And there's actually an app that has the voice narration. So if you're not the biggest fan of reading aloud, they have voice actors that read the different texts in different parts.
Yes. It's funny because it's very cute in art style, but from what I remember, I don't know if the rest of the game played out like this, but it can have a little bit adult topics and language in there. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Wandering Galaxy was another one.
The next one that came out after that.
I think that fulfilled. That was a Kickstarter. I think it fulfilled. I think it's already.
Not sure.
Yeah. And then also, of course, one of your favorites, Summoner Wars.
Summoner Wars.
Yeah.
I never get to talk about Summoner Wars. This is a head-to-head card game. Combat game with cards. But there's a grid. There's like a board that you're playing, and each person plays as an asymmetric faction. This also has a cult following. When we played Summoner Wars for the first time, it was actually when they re-released it
with like the new
everything, the new graphics and stuff, because the Summoner Wars is not a new game by any means. Like there are so many different sets that have come out for the original game, but then they re-released it, and we did a playthrough video for it on Watch It Played, and I was like, what is this game?
That was how we were introduced to it.
It's so good. Yeah. So if you like 2-player sort of battle them out, but cards and not like miniatures or anything, they're cards. Summoner Wars is fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. You actually play the cards to the board, right?
Yes, to the board, right. And they are like your troops and stuff.
Yes.
I'm not really one for like skirmishy games, but
this one plays pretty well. Like you have to really think like offensively and defensively.
Yes.
And some of your characters are very defensive, and it's like, okay, I got to position them here, but I still need to be in an attacking position. And everybody has their own asymmetric like special character, and so they all act a little bit differently. So there's a lot of variety in that particular one. And really I'm not very good at it, but I do appreciate that game.
And just to mention another title that is not like the other ones. They've also published Hickory Dickory, which is an abstract game based off of the nursery rhyme about the clocks that run up, or not the clocks, the mice that run up the clock.
Yes.
But it is, like, you look at it and it's adorable. Like, this is a game that
this is probably going to be some
cute.
Light game.
You think that maybe it's a kid's game, maybe it's very hard.
It's hard.
It's an abstract strategy game, for sure. Pick up and deliver?
Order fulfillment, yeah. And your clock timing game, I guess.
Yeah, the clock goes like there's a clock aspect that definitely determines the timing of the game.
There's a big future planning element to it.
Yeah.
And we learned that at Dice Tower West, not this recent year, but the last year, on the very last day. So you're in Vegas. It's pretty. You're tired by Sunday. We were underslept.
To say the
and
least.
there was a time change on that day, the Saturday into Sunday. So
that we didn't anticipate.
Gosh. So we were like, okay, it's just gonna be some light kid game, and then we like get into it and like, oh my god, there's a lot going on in this game right now. I gotta wake up.
You can customize your mice. Like the mice act differently. It's a lot.
It's a very clever
very
game.
Good.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Next up, we have Restoration Games. Now we've only played one of their titles, but many times.
That's not true.
What else have you
played?
We've
played Stop Thief.
Oh, Stop Thief. Okay,
so Restoration, what we knew about them in the beginning was they take old designs,
titles,
and they restore them. So Stop Thief was the very first game that we played.
That's right.
That was published by them. And Stop Thief is a classic game from a while ago.
It's like one player is a thief moving around a map, and everybody else is trying to capture them, but it's not cooperative.
It's not cooperative.
Everybody is trying to do their own thing to catch that one thief that's moving around.
That is a family weight game.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that, actually. There's
I forgot
an
about
app.
that one, yeah.
You can like hear the footsteps, or like you can hear them breaking glass or something.
Right.
Like you're trying to catch the thief. I thought that was a really cool restoration of a game.
Yeah. The one that we've played the most, though, is many iterations of this game called Unmatched.
Yes.
So we've done...
Probably have heard of it.
We've done several playthroughs on the channel. There's a ton of different boxes with different characters and heroes. And basically, it's a card dueling game where you also have like your miniature on the map, and
it is a dueling game where you're moving around the map for sure. But the way that you attack each other and take actions is via your own asymmetric deck of cards.
Yep.
Because the thing that's really cool about Unmatched is all the characters are different, either characters from fantasy stories,
folklore,
from histories from different cultures. There's a whole Marvel series. Like there's like a Shakespeare one. There's Jurassic Park. So there are all sorts of different characters, and they're so thematic. The card art is gorgeous. I am a huge fan of Unmatched. That I try to collect all the boxes, but I did not back the storage component, so I don't know where I'm gonna put them all. But I love Unmatched.
We have a Calyx over here, and there's a whole like
there's
cubby.
an Unmatched section.
There's a cubby plus half a cubby,
and
of
they keep
Unmatched
releasing
boxes.
They keep releasing more sets. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But I love Unmatched. Great 2-player or 4-player game, too. We played it at 4.
Yeah, 2v2. Yeah.
And if you enjoy co-op games, there's also Unmatched Tales to Amaze. So the first one that they came out with was one that we actually covered on our channel. We did a playthrough video for it. Had different monsters that you're trying to cooperatively go against on a big board. It has a really interesting turn order mechanism. I really liked about that. And then they came out with a new one, which I don't know if it's fulfilled. I feel like it hasn't. That was a campaign for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that probably hasn't fulfilled yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I said we haven't played too many. We've played Thunder Road Vendetta.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
another
we
like
played a few
racing like steampunk post-apocalyptic racing game where you're trying to like
also
edge people out. Yeah.
old school that they restored. Next up, we have Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. So they are a small publisher as well that have really also beautiful artwork on their games.
Very good
One of the
components.
ones that I really enjoyed is a game called Keystone North America,
You have way more experience with that than I do.
because I played it solo.
Yeah.
So it's a game where you are trying to build up your own tableau of animals from the display, but the way in which your tableau actually scores is what makes the game difficult, because you have to, they're all numbered, so you have to keep track of like
Sequencing?
the sequence. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a big sequencing
I remember
aspect,
this,
but there are other aspects of the game that make it a bit more complicated. There's an action selection mechanism with these tokens. It's really beautiful in design. We've actually played it at 2.
I've only played it at 2 in order to help prepare you for like your solo play of it.
Maybe.
I think I want
we
to say
played it at 2, and I played it solo, and
Yeah.
I would have to say I really enjoy the solo experience. There's a solo campaign that with like a field guide that you can actually go through, and I just think it's a really cool solo game. But again, it does play a multiplayer. And another recent one that came out that we saw at our local gaming store is a game called Wild Gardens. Really beautiful.
We covered it for the campaign, like
Yeah.
as a kind of like preview, just kind of overview. You are trying to forage for different ingredients so that you can essentially use those ingredients in combination to bake different recipes, score points.
Yeah, that's like a family weight game as well, but there's definitely some complexity to it. But like I said, it's gorgeous.
Very nicely illustrated, yeah. All right, we are in S. This is
Almost to the end of the list.
almost to that. Yeah, again, we said alphabetical order. This
Yeah.
is Stonemaier Games. We have actually played pretty much all of their titles,
Not
I want
all,
to say.
but a lot of them.
Have we missed anything from them?
We haven't played like Stamp Swap.
Stamp Swap. I haven't played that.
Yeah, there are a few. There are
Yeah.
a few games
That
that
might
we
be the
haven't
only
played.
one we haven't played.
Which one?
I think that might be the only one we haven't played.
There are a few titles. Like we haven't played Finspan,
Okay, you know so much. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
but we have played
That's
a
true.
majority of
That's
them.
true. Okay.
Stonemaier Games is a very popular publisher because they've published Wingspan, which is got to be one of the biggest,
Big, yeah.
right? One of the bigger games to be released in the past 10 years.
Scythe, of course.
Scythe, of course,
One of
which
my
was
favorite games of all time.
which, on our top 50. I think that was my number 1, if I remember. That is one of our
definitely
favorite
in the top
games
5 for
of
you.
all
Yeah.
time, and we are probably going to be doing another playthrough this year. We've been
so.
saying that we were going to return to it as a 2-player because we have like the modular board.
We have the modular
But-
board. We have a better camera than we did when we first filmed it.
Yes.
So now looking back at the old footage of it, we're like, oof, we should probably do a better one.
So we're probably
Yeah.
going to be doing that this year, as well as a viticulture playthrough,
Yes.
because we've never done viticulture on our channel, and that's another one that people really love. So basically, choose a world. Like, do you want to do engine building and moving around a board with mechs and such? That's Scythe. Do you want to make wine in a very beautiful sort of atmosphere? That's viticulture.
One of my favorites, actually, from Stonemaier Games is a game called Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia. This is a game where the theme is you are overlords or like the leader of a dystopian society, and you are trying to use workers to maintain that dystopia, and you're trying to keep their knowledge as low as possible.
Yeah, terrible.
terrible.
When you say it like that,
No,
it's terrible. But
it's a good game.
The game itself doesn't feel that
It's
way. to play it.
fantastic. So this one, it plays best, I think, at 5 and 6 players.
Yes, try to max it out.
Yeah, so this
basically.
is an interactive Euro style game because everybody at the beginning of the game, you belong to up to 2 different factions. And so you kind of have these levers that you're trying to pull and push so that you can not only build out the different infrastructure of the society, but also try to make it so that your factions are ahead by the end of the game. And so there's like this like subtle like unknown teamwork that you're doing with people because you don't know what everybody else's factions are. So
Yeah, it's
really
competitive, but
competitive.
also like a semi-co-op feel.
It's like Monique is pushing up on that track. I need that track to go up. Maybe
So let's
we're
work
working
together.
together.
Yeah, But
maybe
it's
we're
not. It's
Yeah.
really not cooperative.
Yeah.
It just kind of has a semi-co-op feel to it until somebody wins.
Yeah.
And the thing that is so beautiful about the game is the tempo of the turns. You
Yes.
just kind of on your turn, you put out a die, you do the thing. Sometimes it's put out a die and gain some resources. Okay, next person.
person, yep.
So if you're playing like at the full complement of like
It
6
just-
players,
it goes.
it just goes
Yeah.
in a circle over and over again. There's really not much pausing to think. Like
Yeah.
you're thinking while everybody else is going. And
Yeah,
then
and then if you
kinda
don't have any dice, then you have to pull back your dice,
Yes.
basically like re-recruit them all back into your hand, and then you roll your dice, and then you set yourself up for your next turn when it comes back around.
And there's a lot of player interaction
There
I
is,
feel
yeah.
because like sometimes die values that are in certain areas are affecting how strong your action is.
yeah,
So
depending
it's like
on the pips values.
I don't want you to remove your die right now because I needed it to be a certain sum when I went there. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting, but it's only one that we get to really play when we go to conventions.
Yeah,
Because
I seek it out to be a 5 or 6 player game.
yeah, we
because
pretty
of
much
that.
won't play it at lower than that. Well,
Yeah,
I guess we
I've played it at 4.
Yeah, we played it
it's
at
good.
4.
I don't think I'd play it at 3. Definitely wouldn't play it at 2.
Yeah. 4 bare minimum, and then 5 or 6 is the best.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our penultimate publisher is a publisher called Thunderworks Games. So they have a sale going on right now. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but it's on their website as well. They're very well known for Role Player. So that was a game that we were finally able to cover back in October, I think, or maybe November.
One of the first videos I think you ever did on the channel.
Yeah,
Role
I did a
Player.
tutorial for it. Don't bring that up. We did a
Yeah,
playthrough for
maybe.
it last year.
Yeah.
That one's better if you're interested in checking it out. But it's really an interesting game where you're kind of building up your almost like your D&D character. I think that's what it is. With their stats and such. And then with the expansions, you can actually go and fight monsters. But at its heart, it's a dice drafting game. So that is a game that we both really enjoy, Role Player. Another one that we don't get to talk about too much because I love flip and write / roll and write games is a game called Cartographers. So this is another one of those. It's another publisher where they have a world that kind of has like a spin-off of a lot of different games that are sort of a part of the world.
Yeah, like
right?
there was Dawn of Ulos. That was another one that they did.
Yeah.
That's also in that same
A
universe.
lot of them have a very similar feel in terms of the theme. So Cartographers, I think, is called a role player's tale.
I think so. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of the role player universe, and that was one we did a video like several years now ago where we had regrets about which game we offloaded
Yes.
or got rid of, and
was a
Cartographers
big
was
one.
on that, and they actually saw it. They saw the video and they're like, "Hey, you want it back?" So
We have it now.
we now have it. It's not going
making
away.
We're not making that mistake again.
Yeah.
It's great because you're all building out your own map. That's why it's called Cartographers. And it's via these cards that flip that you have to kind of draw different types of terrain. And it's still like a Euro-y feel because there are scoring criteria depending on how you're able to build out these different types of terrain. But at some point, the monsters come to attack. And when they do that, you get to draw monsters on your neighbor's
opponents,
map.
yeah.
So it kind of messes with their plans. I thought that was really interesting that there's an aspect of you writing on your
good
neighbor's
mechanism,
map.
yeah.
It's a good mechanism.
And another title that is different from these two that just made it into the U.S. under the tariffs was a game called Emerald Skulls. This one is a Yahtzee-style gambling game where you are basically trying to make different sets and combinations of dice of like type. So that you can try to score the most amount of cogs. 'Cause
Cogs, yeah,
the
yeah.
theme is like you are in prison with like your fellow prisoners, like monster prisoners,
Yeah.
and you're basically you're trying to wager like what the outcome of your die roll is going to be, and everybody else is also wagering on you, and so
Yes.
you're trying to screw over your opponents who have like certain wagers on you by pushing your luck to try to score the most amount of points because you're going to try to get as many cogs on your turn as possible.
Yeah.
But there is an element of busting and not being able to actually score, which then in turn helps your opponents.
Yeah, that is a very interesting one
Yeah.
because you can actually score more points not being the active roller, right?
Yep.
That's one that you play with higher player counts.
3+.
We actually did a playthrough video of it with Michael, our
yeah.
friend. So we did it at 3 players and it was great. I mean, it might be group dependent, but I really just enjoy the mechanics that are in that game.
Yeah, simple to teach, simple to understand, but quick to get in, but just the right amount of like headspace for 3 or 4 players.
And it has really good moments. All right, we have finally reached the end of the list, and for this last entry, we are going to cheat, and we're going to name a few of the larger publishers. The first one being The Op. You are probably very familiar with a lot of their games. They do both party games, but also a lot of IPs.
Yep.
They have a lot of the monopolies. They also they have Telestrations, which is a very, very popular party game. But
Tapple also.
Tapple,
Yeah,
yes.
one of
which
our
is
favorites.
Huge on social media, especially. And more recently, they've been getting a lot more into strategy games. So last year, they released Gnome Hollow, which is a game that I was
plays that
very
a lot on
addicted
BGA.
to on BGA. They also have a lot of the deck building series. I think there was a Toy Story one. I know there was a Harry Potter.
Hogwarts
but
Battle.
Recently there was Avatar.
Avatar.
And a lot of these games sort of help get people into the hobby. And they're a very large company, but they also help the board game industry in a lot of ways that people are probably not aware of. There's also AEG that does a ton of games.
Yeah, Let's Go to Japan.
Let's Go to Japan. Dead Reckoning.
Dead Reckoning. They also did one of my favorite games of all time, Space Base.
Yes.
Yeah.
They partner with Flat Out, I believe, and I think they published Calico, right?
I think so. They have some sort of partnership with Flat Out Games. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but they bring together Point Salad and those games.
Of course, there's also Renegade, who is another California-based,
Yep.
I believe, publishing company.
On the way to San Diego.
Recently, they've been doing a lot of card-based games, and we really haven't played any of them. But they publish all of the Garfield games, and those are the ones that we align
Yeah,
with the
they're
most.
very, very
so,
good. Yeah.
like the West Kingdom series, the North series, all of the series
North Sea.
in this world, they publish. And I think they also have a sale or had one. I'm not quite sure how long it's going on for. I would just check in with them. And the last one is Rio Grande Games.
Classic.
So they are through and through Euro style. If you like dry
My style.
Euros, which
Yep.
is something that we tend to align with, they do a lot of those games. The Suhi games, which a lot of them that we're going to be covering in the coming months are probably published by Rio Grande Games.
And of course, they published one of my favorite dry Euros of all time, Trading in the Mediterranean, Concordia.
The original Trading
Concordia.
in the
Yeah.
Mediterranean.
We actually just played recently Concordia Venus, which is the team version of it. So
Yeah, we're late to the party.
you can actually play it technically up to 6 players, 2v2v2. We played it in a 4-player style, 2v2. And you're essentially playing, if you are familiar with the game, Concordia, but you have limited communication with your teammate who's sitting across from you. Clever in how they created the team aspect of it.
Yes, it's very well done. It's not just you share the score at the end. You do, but not only that. During the game, when you choose an action, you get to perform it, and then your partner also gets to perform it.
Yeah.
But you cannot tell each other strategies like, "Please play this card next." You can't do that.
Right.
And you can also share money, and your partner can't say no.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And what's good about it is it makes it more of an interactive game than standard Concordia, which is fairly interactive. But by having it as a team base, you are really paying attention to your teammate's situation. It's like, okay, I really need to go and sell all my goods for money, but you have no goods to sell for money. So I'm not going to play this card, because if I do, you're going to have nothing to do on that turn. That's a wasted turn. So there's a lot of kind of coordinating, but silent coordination that goes on in the game. Very, really clever.
It was glorious.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is a ton of games. More than 20?
Way more than 20.
Way more than
this
20.
Might be our longest list yet.
I'm going to spend the next hour or two getting all the thumbnails so that I can pop them up on the screen for you to see.
We'll see. Maybe.
Maybe I won't. Yeah, we'll see.
Now, again, this is not a comprehensive list. It was limited to American publishers.
Yeah.
They never are.
Yeah.
One of the criteria that we didn't mention earlier is we had to have been able to play enough of their games to make meaningful decisions and recommendations. Now, if you have recommendations from either publishers that we missed or even from the ones that we mentioned that we did not discuss, please leave them in the comments down below so that other people can come across them and sort of see what new game they'd like to play.
Yeah, we've mentioned in the past the comment section is a fantastic resource for other people.
For us too.
For us as well.
Yeah.
Gives us kind of an idea as to what we should be looking into in the future. But like we said, even if you're in not a position to help publishers right now, maybe a lot of these games are on your shelf of shame.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend kind of prioritizing these ones because we really love them.
Maybe we can inspire you to get them played.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is our list. Thank you all so much for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.